So in this video, I'd like to talk more about the fact that there's been a rise in popularity in coaching as a means of encouraging change and encouraging learning. And I think these days most coaches are familiar with the GROW model, which was developed by Sir John Whitmore. Developing the goals, understanding the reality of the coachee, looking at the opportunities or the obstacles, and then the way forward. And that's great as far as it goes. It's great for a structure for a coaching session, but I think that to really to benefit from coaching, I think that we need to be digging further than the GROW model. And in success stories we've developed some methodologies for coaches to help them to do that, using story and metaphor and narrative. So what do I mean by metaphor to begin with? Well, most people know metaphor as being a literary device, which is what it is, and is where we compare one thing with another. And so people might say, my life's at a crossroads, or life's a bowl of cherries, or it's a minefield out there. And particularly in a coaching situation, we can use metaphor to help people to really get to the underlying problems that might be causing particular behaviour. And any change in behaviour happens consciously and subconsciously. And this is where metaphor goes further than basic coaching models, because it helps us to really dig into that. Metaphor helps people to express the inexpressible. I very often find that a coachee can talk metaphorically about an issue, particularly if it's a difficult one or something contentious or something emotional, far more than just using ordinary language. So what does a coach need to do in a practical sense? Well, there are a few tips that I can give you from my experience. If you're working with story and metaphor as a coach, first of all, you need to listen very carefully to the sort of language that your coachee is using. And by that I mean the metaphorical language particularly that the coachee is using, because they'll always use it. We all use metaphor at some time. So be very astute to what type of language they're using. Secondly, then pick up on that language. So if your coachee says something like, my life's at a crossroads, then you can use that. You can, what we call, unpack the metaphor. So that's by using phrases like, tell me about the crossroads, how would you describe it, what does it feel like to be at the crossroads? Those type of questions that really help the coachee to get into the issue. And then thirdly, once you've done that, you can then expand on that to help the coachee to reframe and to maybe take them to another stage. So you can say, what if it weren't a crossroads? What if it was a roundabout? What if you turned right? What if you turned left? So you're making a suggestion for a coachee to consider. Now, there are pitfalls, there are things you need to be aware of as a coach. One of them is the fact that you need to be working with the coachee's metaphor rather than your own, wherever you can. So I'll give you an example of that. There was a woman I was talking to at one of my training workshops, and she said that she had been speaking to a colleague who had said to her, do you follow football at all? And she said, no, not really. So he said, right, well, okay, it's just like a game of football. Now, that was completely less than useful for that woman, because she had no frame of reference. So the danger is that you try and force the coachee into your map of the world. Much better for you to go into theirs if you can. Just let me give you some examples of where I've used story and metaphor, particularly in a coaching situation. One chap I worked with was concerned about his lack of progress in his organisation, and he said to me during the coaching session, he said, I feel like a pawn on a chessboard. So for the rest of that coaching session we conducted that metaphorically on the chessboard. So I said to him, so tell me, what's it like to be a pawn on this chessboard? And he said, well, I can only move this way, I can't move that way, and I can't move that way. And I feel very small in comparison to other people. So I said to him, so what if you could be another piece on the chessboard? What would you like to be? And he said, I'd like to be the knight. So I said, okay, so tell me about it. What's it like to be a knight? And he said, I'm up there with the king and the queen, he said, and I'm looked up to, and etc. So we carried on in this way for a while, and then I said to the chap, well, if, as memory serves me, I said, don't the knights have to go out and fight battles every now and again? And he said, oh, I don't want to do that. So immediately it gave me a clearer picture as a coach that what this chap really was saying was he wanted the heightened kudos, if you like, and the heightened profile of the knight on the chessboard, but he wanted the limited responsibility of the pawn. So you can immediately see this is where there's a problem, this is where there is dissonance. So how can you find out more about how to use story and metaphor in coaching situations? Well, I run workshops for coaches, teaching them how to use this success stories methodology in a coaching situation. If you want to know more about this, first of all, I would suggest you have a look on the website, because I've put some tips for coaches, which I think you'll find quite useful. And also, if you want to have a look on the website, we run workshops regularly in how to use story and metaphor in a coaching situation.